In the previous video, we very quickly wrote a super simple script in PHP just to make sure that it actually works if we run it on our machine. So that was just to sort of get the hang of it. Now let's actually try to write the script that goes with our feedback form. So a couple things first to play with in here. We did create this form, right? And it's this form element, and it goes down to here. It has all these different input elements, and if we open this with Safari, we can see them here. So we've got this text box here, and another, a password input box there, these radio buttons, a text area, and some checkboxes with a reset that's mislabeled, and a submit button. And right now, this does nothing. So before we write the PHP, we do need to make a change or two to our form, because right now the form isn't even trying to do anything. So in the opening form tag, we need to add in a method attribute, and it's going to be post. And we need an action attribute. And the actual name of the action attribute is going to be whatever we want to call this .php file. So maybe contact.php or feedback.php. I guess I'll go with feedback.php so it can match the name of the HTML file. Other than that, this should be pretty much good. Everything has names. The names in here are important because that's how it will feed into the PHP script. So if you have any input sections, regardless of the type, without names, make sure you give them names, and then you should be good to go. So make sure we save that, close that, and now let's actually make our PHP file. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one because that one was garbage. It was just a quick demo, and we'll make a new one. And we'll call this contact.php. We're on the desktop. There we go. So this name must match whatever we wrote in there. To start the script, just like in the previous one, we start it with an open angle bracket, question mark PHP. Make this a little bit bigger. And we close it with a question mark and a closing angle bracket. Now the standard way to do this is to create variables that are going to match up with each of these form elements. So like we'll have a variable for the name, a variable for the password or secret or whatever, a variable for the rating, the comments, and each of these little boxes here. So if I open this up, an easy way to do this is just to match 1 for 1. So if this name here is username, then we could just declare the variable as username. In PHP, all variables are started with the $sign. And to set it, we just use an equal sign. And then we're going to use another $sign underscore, post in all capitals, open a square bracket, open a single quote. In here, this needs to match whatever the name attribute is for that input type. So username, close the square bracket, and semicolon. What this will do is it will take whatever the user submitted here, whether they left it as Jane Doe or whether they put in something custom, and it will store that in here. So that's what a variable does. If you're not familiar with that concept, it just stores things, it just holds things. And we're going to make several of these. So this password type input, we had the name as secret, so we can make one that matches. It doesn't matter how many of these you create, however many you want on your form is fine. It's going to be that same pattern. So secrets. Next we have rating. There are 5 ratings here, but we just define it once, and it's going to drop in whichever one was checked when they submitted it. So rating, which equals the same thing, except inside of here, this becomes rating. And then we have the comments one. So comments. And we have contact, permission, and frogs. So I'll just copy these three and paste them just to make this a little bit faster. So contacts, and contacts, and permission, and permission, and frogs, and frogs. All right, so now we've set the variables. So now what do we actually do with them? So let's talk about the next aspect. So now that we have these variables, the way that we actually send an email with them is using the mail function. Now inside of this mail function, we have to put a couple different things. We need whoever it's going to. We need the email subject, the body of the email, and then whoever it's from. And then we end that line with the semicolon. Now we've got some issues here. There are a few things that we need to address. So we have a bunch of things to go inside of this email body, but we only have one spot for it. So the best way to handle that probably is to make another variable. So we could call this body, and this can equal basically all of those things. So we can say equals, and inside of double quotes, let's do username, and maybe just a hyphen, and secrets, and another hyphen, and we'll just put hyphens between each one of these. We can talk about better ways to do this later, but for right now, this is just fast and easy. So comments, and contacts, and permission, and frogs, and or whatever else you have in yours. Like with all the other lines in PHP, we need to end with a semicolon. Now notice this line spans across two actual lines, and that's okay. The line ends whenever you add the semicolon in there, not whenever there's a line break. So that's fine. Now since we have all of this content inside of one variable, we can easily drop that variable name here. So this becomes body. We still need a to, an email subject, and a from. Some of this we can just set ourselves. So like here, maybe this is like feedback from web form or something, and that's fine. And for to, maybe this is, this would be your email address, whatever it happens to be. So like for me, mine might be, let's go with @Gmail since YouTube is owned by Google. And we've got the body, we've got the feedback, and now we need the from. Now we didn't actually ask for the user's email on that form, so that's a little bit of a problem, so we should probably do that so that way we actually know how to get back to them. So we can just duplicate this one really quickly. Name becomes email, and value becomes example@example.com or something. And now we can store that in a new variable. So this becomes email, and this becomes email. And then in here, the very last argument for the email function, we do actually write from, but it's in quotes with a capital F. And we can just do here that email variable inside of angle brackets. And then to make sure it actually works, after that mail function, we could have a print command, which will just say mail sent, and end it with a semicolon. And let's see if it works. So in our terminal, just like in the previous video, we need to type PHP -S localhost, and then whatever port we want to use. Press enter. It's now running, so we should be able to. All right, that looks good so far. We can see that it pulled the file from there. And if we just put in some stuff and we hit submit, let's see if it looks like it worked. feedback.php was not found because I accidentally called it contact. It matters that they match. So let's try renaming this feedback.php, submit. There we go, mail sent. So it looks good. Now if I check my actual email, it won't be there because we are running this from a local host. You can't use the mail function from a local host. It'll look like it runs, but we don't know if it really worked or not. You'll have to actually upload it to a real server. If you're using a free server somewhere, it probably won't work. They probably don't have it enabled just due to concerns about spam. You'd probably have to actually have a server that you're paying for, like GoDaddy or HostGator or basically any of them, Bluehost. No matter who you have, if it's a actual paid service, you probably have that functionality. If it's not working, try giving them a call, try chatting with their customer service. You should be able to get it to work. Now, if we want to make sure that it actually took that data and stored that data like the PHP itself is working, we can make a little change. All right, if we go back into our feedback.php, and let's make just a couple changes. Instead of using the mail function, if we want, we can try to find out if overall things are working, right? So let's instead say that we use fwrite function. And what this does is it actually will create a file, or it will store stuff in a file, which if you're having trouble with your contact form, like the email actually going out, you could store stuff possibly in a file on your server until you get that fixed up with whoever your service provider is. So we do fwrite, and we're going to need two variables in here. We're going to need some sort of file handling variable, and then we'll also need whatever it's going to put in there, which for us is going to be this body variable. And then we'll need to do the fclose, the file close function, which it needs to have also that file handling argument. So this file handling argument, it needs to actually be something that's not what goes there. What goes there needs to actually be like the path to the file and like what we're allowing it to do. So we're going to say, I guess, file h for file handling, and that is going to actually equal another function. It's going to be a file open function, and the file name, we can call it whatever we want. Let's go ahead and call it test.txt, and the next argument, separated with a comma, is going to be a plus, which is for append, and each one of these needs a semicolon. Don't forget those. Some programming languages you don't need them, like Python, which I use a lot. And then this here, this file handling, needs to be that variable name that we just declared. So this becomes file h to match, and this also becomes file h to match. And if we save it, we still have this running, so we can reopen Safari, and we can go to the local host again, slash, what did I call it? What's my file called? Feedback.html. Desktop slash feedback.html. There we go. All that works. We hit submit, and there we go. We have a text file that just magically appeared, and if I open it, there we go, perfect. So it worked. So if this worked, then the mail function should work as well. There's a couple other things that we need to talk about before you would actually use this live. There's a few potential issues or problems that could arise, but we know the base of it works. So we'll start with that, and then we'll discuss a few things in the next video.